Let's do some transitions.
There we go.
And it's us. We're live.
Hey, okay.
We did. Take two.
We did it.
Oh my god. I'm so sorry,
It's
Colin.
all good, man.
I'm so sorry, Colin. It was only like 15 minutes of completely wasted recording that didn't actually ever happen. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hi. This is clearly a test run. You're getting to be a guinea pig, just like my buddy Chris got to be a guinea pig. Did you watch that Inside Tabletop where I
did.
I interviewed my buddy Chris?
Yeah.
He is a legend.
Yeah.
He is a fantastic dude. He was the first of the like, what's the new things I'm gonna try and do with all of this, guys. And he was very patient as I went through a great deal of emotional journey.
Yes.
So you've also gotten to witness my emotional journey today. And we're gonna do a version of that because this is an Inside Tabletop because you're in a different gaming industry. You were in the gaming industry.
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
And you're in
I've
a
left
different
it now.
industry now. Yeah. But this is more like an inside the hobby.
Yeah.
Kind of like a thing. I don't have a name for this one yet, guys. It's not. This is untitled podcast too. And this is the first episode. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk to you about three things. Before we got to play a game, me a vast list of things to be like. I play all of these games. Well, and that's really interesting to me. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this with you is because you are. Oh, jeez. See, I knew just like with Chris, I knew I was going to screw something up already. I'm just going to take this off.
All right, fair.
I'm just going to take this off because I keep screwing it up, and I know where my mic is now. I'm going to. I want to do a thing basically where we.
Someone's building something.
Someone is building something somewhere. Yeah. I couldn't hear the headphones on. It's not coming through the headphones, luckily, guys. But as soon as I took this off, I was like, "Is someone hammering? Someone is absolutely hammering." I wanted to talk to you about what that's been like because more and more I find people don't tend to try and keep up with like all the games, and you seem to be playing kind of all the games, which is crazy. You're also from a very different part of North America from me. You're from BC, British Columbia, for you people listening who don't know the vast territory that is Canada. You're the mountains and Pacific Ocean half.
Yes.
The vibe is very different there. It's a lot
is.
more like West Coast, so it's a lot more Seattle.
Yeah, and
Oregon.
we're all shoved in the corner.
Yeah,
There's
and there's like, well, yeah, you got a mountain range like right there. Like you're basically in like your own little like biosphere, even, which is kind of amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
It's like this little microcosm ecosystem, and then even across BC, like there's so many different types of like landscapes and ecosystems that just exist within the province.
Yeah, Pacific Northwest rainforest, mountains.
The Okanagan Desert.
Yeah. You've got like the last sand dunes in Canada, which is crazy, and they're all protected.
It's pretty crazy.
Wild.
And you get up north, and then like as it starts transitioning into the Yukon, you get some tundra as well. And then
tree line ends, and you're in like straight up just like glacial runoff and stuff like that. That's wild, man.
Yeah.
That's wild. You were telling me earlier that your first game of 10th edition got interrupted slightly.
Yeah. We were because you were mentioning earlier about how BC just has more animals, and like my buddy and I were in his parents' carport trying out 10th edition, and we had to stop the game because he had to chase a bear away.
Just no big deal. Just bears.
Yeah.
Like I like how you're reinforcing all the Canadian stereotypes right now. Just random bear attacks.
Just ran a bear away. Yeah. He got the horn out, threw rocks at it.
Yeah.
He's like, "Do we want to go inside?" And he's like, "Nah, it's cool."
It's cool. He won't come back. I threw the big rock at him.
Yeah.
He's just got a stack of bear rocks, just in case. He's got some bear rocks, just in case he needs to drive off bears. What is this for?
Exactly.
Why do you have all these cairns? You'll see. Around turn 3, it's gonna get real weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't see us. We didn't flip this twist in the Leviathan deck. Seems like a different.
Yeah, game interrupted by bears.
By large ursine. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Large animal attack. What happens? How many command points extra do you get if you get mauled by a bear during a game?
Yeah, that's when you reach over and you can move your minis over a little bit. Plus you objective. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So I just thought it'd be interesting to talk to you about what that's like meant to you, basically, in like 3 parts. The first part is like, where did your hobby start?
Yeah.
Where did it come from?
It started like finding. I found out about Warhammer while I was in elementary school. Funny enough, it was once you finish all your typing lessons, you get like free internet time, and like somehow there, and I stumbled upon like the Tyranid minis. I ended up on the Games Workshop website.
Okay, that's weird. That's weird that wasn't blocked.
Yeah, and so I saw all these things. I was like, "Whoa, these are amazing!" Just like tiny baby Colin, and then eventually, I didn't just engage it at all until I hit 15, and then
Okay.
that's when me and my friend we got the Battle of McCraig set.
That's such a good box set.
Yeah, it really was.
So that box set was the 3rd edition box. No, 4th edition box.
And then they ran it. I think it was like 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Yeah.
And then 6 was when they transitioned to the Battle for Blackreach, I think.
The Assault on Blackreach was the 5th edition box. So
Right.
4th edition was Battle for McCraig.
Yeah.
It came with quite possibly the most, for those of you who don't remember Battle for McCraig, most of you probably do, it was one of the most evocative, I think, starter sets because it came with a narrative in a box.
Yeah.
You had this Crash Tequila Land. It was the first time anyone had ever seen this like flyer in plastic.
Yeah.
It had like an NPC model.
Yeah.
He's had Lieutenant
That they
Varys.
did nothing with.
He was just an objective marker,
He was
basically.
just an objective marker.
They had these like electro fences that they set up around
Yep.
the perimeter to keep out all the bad guys, and they had like bespoke like new Gene Stealer miniatures for the first time ever because before that it was just the old like
The old
two-post
metal
Gene
guys.
Stealers,
Yeah.
spore mines,
Yeah.
like all of this stuff in this one box set.
Oh, those little like spore things to spit them
The
out. and
Tyranid little
everything.
objective markers,
Yeah,
little like
yeah, yeah.
Norn emplacement or whatever.
Yeah.
It was wild. It was
great,
such a cool
great
box.
Yeah.
And it was it was funny though because in a way it went backwards because it was the first push fit Marines.
Yeah.
But also it meant you went back to the 2nd edition, hugging their bolts with their chest
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
Nuremberg Marines. You know what I mean? Where they're all like lined
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
And it's not something you can actually like pose or move around and stuff like that anymore.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because like I love that box set.
Yeah.
I think that is one of the greatest box sets Games Workshop ever made. I think the 5th edition box set is better from a gaming point of view, but that 5th edition box set tells the coolest story.
Yeah.
And there was so many great, because I was working for Games Workshop at the time, there were so many great demo tables like that just took that and ran with it.
Yeah.
We had one at the big like Oakville bunker, which is where the office was, where we built basically a plane crash through like a halo kind of like
sick.
mountainside.
Amazing.
So it looked like the plane had like shot through this like ridge and like dug a huge crater,
That's
and then the
awesome.
Marines and the Gene Stealers were like coming over the ridges like towards it, and the Marines had kind of like peeled out of the thing and were like defending it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like you
like
said,
a pelican from Halo as well.
Yeah.
Like a pelican from Halo.
like Blackreach, like you said, was better for gaming, but like narratively, it was just like kind of like just Space Marines and orcs in trench warfare, versus like that where it's like, oh, we got to defend the landing zone and all this stuff. And
So it's a great box for you to have started with because you could just put it together and play.
Yeah, exactly.
So how was your first paint jobs?
It was terrible. I got those like I looked at those like Citadel paint pots, and as a kid with
Sure.
like no income, I was like, those are too expensive.
Yeah,
Can't get those.
Can't do this.
Can't do that. And so I got those. So I went to Michael's and I got those little enamel paint bottles.
Little testers and
Yeah,
animals.
yeah, absolutely. And I finished my first Marine. I was like, this is too shiny.
Those little things are little factories of disappointment,
I
man.
know, right? They're terrible.
I ruined all of my like 99-cent paintbrushes with those because I was trying to like thin them with water.
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
all required
Oh, I
like a
know.
lacquer thinner, oil-based thinner. They were the
Yeah.
worst.
You dunk your brush in the water and you just see it like like over
like
the top.
solidify and like float to the top.
Yeah,
Oh
you're
my
like,
god, it
uh-oh.
was so bad.
That's not right.
That's not what I'm intending here. My mom eventually figured out that she could just give me rubbing alcohol because you could use isopropyl to
Yeah.
break it down too.
Yeah.
And so we just used like at-home rubbing alcohol because we didn't have paint thinner.
Yeah.
And that got us by. But my first, it wasn't Games Workshop actually. It was a Ralpartha Troll.
Yeah.
Was my first Undead Troll was my first miniature, and it was this exact same situation. I
Yeah.
think those things caused more like trauma to young people than they did anything good because like. You've just convinced your parent to buy you something expensive that requires you to commit to it. So you're already feeling this like sense of trepidation of like, can I actually do this? Like I just showed my whole ass if I didn't. You know what I mean? Like I just bet the farm basically on a hobby.
Yeah. Exactly.
And mom just stole out like this is like Nintendo game bucks and she just stole it on this box set right here. Like I could be playing whatever Super Smash Bros. 2 or some GameCube game right now if I wanted to be.
Yeah. It was, like
and then you like feel like you just totally fucked it up.
Oh, I know, right?
With that paint.
And like you have like this like walk of shame moment as a child where like you go in like the first week and you buy all these testers paints and then you come in like a few days later and walk out with just the one tester paint thinner.
Yep.
You're like,
Yeah. I use that as a cautionary tip so many times at Games Workshop, telling kids like, look, don't do what I did. I screwed up all of these miniatures. I regretted it immediately.
Yeah.
I was so mad at myself. Not because like I couldn't have done it. If someone had walked me through it, I could, but these are just so much harder to use for your first paints ever. like you don't want to be using these as your like trial run learning how to be a miniature game hobbyist.
Like the Citadel paints, like they're still like expensive.
Sure.
But, like for people who are like new to the hobby, new to painting, like that whole contrast line is so nice for like people learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so like I think and it's interesting because you're here.
Yeah.
It's like 15 years later.
Yeah.
You play every game now.
Yeah.
And that means that at some point you made it over that like hump of is this too hard for me or is this not for me? Right.
Yeah.
Like, cause there's probably for every hobbyist that gets to where you are, there's probably like 50
Yeah.
that are just like, nope, no, thank you. This is the hardest way to do anything. I don't know why anyone would want to like make their game too.
Yeah.
When I could just load it on my computer and play. Like, this is dumb.
Yeah. I think like part of like there's like a number of different reasons for like why I started branching out. Like the first one was just like I saw Warhammer Fantasy and I was just like, oh, this looks pretty neat. I guess trying that one.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of funny because I asked like my grandmother just had like definitely like a big freeze moment. She was very kind and she wanted to get me Warhammer for Christmas. And I was like, oh, I'm really into the Lizardmen. I really like this box set. And then my mom asked me to like tell like some notes. It's like, how is your grandmother going to know what to look for?
Yeah.
Like, well, like they're
making a wish list.
Yeah, they're in a jungle. So like, look for any box that has like a lot of green on it. And then for Christmas, I open up a box of wood elves.
I mean, she understood the assignment. She understood the assignment. It was so like
it was and so yeah. What else is?
Let me tell you, there was about a 2-month period every year working for Games Workshop where you had to decipher whatever broken telephone shit came out of some kid for Christmas.
Yeah, exactly.
I can vividly remember one of my staff members at the Toronto Eaton Centre store standing in front of the counter, looking at a piece of like construction paper with some stuff scribbled on it, and just looking at the woman and looking at him and looking at the woman and looking at me and being like, it says Libyan with physic powers. And I'm like, oh, okay, we got this, buddy.
All
and he's
right.
like, he like didn't know 40K. So I was like, I got this. So I got like librarian with psychic powers. And like, there was like a whole, like, you're trying to understand like what is like this, like, this sort of like misunderstood or like or like the parents written it down and it's like over the phone and they're trying to understand what this kid's saying.
Someone from North Africa with physics. Is that Tomb Kings?
Is that a Tomb King? What is happening? Don't take it literally. It's like reading a license plate joke.
Yeah.
It's phonetic. You gotta sound it out sometimes to get what they're talking about. Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I can understand why the Wood Elves showed up.
Yeah,
and I'm
exactly.
sure the generous return policy at Games Workshop in Metrotown probably fixed that.
I took it. I
just played Wood Elves instead.
What else?
Granny's decided.
Yeah, here
we're
we go.
doing
Let's do it. Yeah.
I'm living with the Everqueen now. This is
Absolutely.
happening.
Yeah, here we go.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but yeah.
So that's like then you go from 40K to fantasy.
Barely. Like I then built my fantasy army and I went to like one of those Sunday mega battle things and I played my Wood Elves there.
Legendary.
Yeah, that was great. But then like I was like, okay, this is awesome. I'm really liking this game system. When do these people play? And they're like, oh, they play at 2 p.m. on Tuesdays. And I'm like, I'm a school child.
That was an answer that was not going to work for for anyone. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Is it just unemployed middle-aged men coming to the store? Is
yeah,
that what's
exactly.
happening?
Yeah, the Warhammer Fantasy scene in
the
Metrotown
rich
was not happening.
Like, and the idle rich is that?
Yeah.
Is it just boomers and unemployed degenerates and the idle rich that play at this store?
Yeah,
that's so funny.
So
I mean, yes, like just for anyone listening. Probably
that's pretty much what happened.
That sounds like every 2 o'clock on a Tuesday gaming night I've ever heard of.
Yeah, and so then with that in mind, it made sense when they eventually then nuked Warhammer Fantasy and replaced it with Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, it's true. That does actually. You're right. If I'm following that trail of breadcrumbs, they don't seem like the word customer would describe them very well.
No.
Yeah. Right. Oh man. So that didn't work out then, obviously.
Yes.
So when was the 40K night that you actually ended up going to?
The 40K which, sorry?
The 40K night that you ended up actually playing.
Well, like that was just like on like every weekend if I could manage it. I was at Metrotown playing 40K with like whoever was there.
You were that kid.
Yeah.
You were that kid. Like, anyone want to play my Thousand Space Marine?
Play me.
How did you paint your Space Marines?
They were so like I played them as salamanders on the table, but I made up my own like custom chapter and everything.
Tell me their history. Tell me the history of your teen Space Marine chapter.
Pull it up.
Everybody did this.
Yeah,
don't lie.
so many
you
people.
sitting there right now, you did this too. You had the coolest, edgiest, edgelordiest
They were
Space
like
Marine chapter.
black, red, and silver as their
Fuck yeah.
paint scheme. It was awesome. Yeah, so
They're a Metallica album cover. Basically.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was the black body with the red shoulder pads and the red shin pads and everything. And then like silver trim and everything like that. But yeah, and then
secretly have dragon DNA in them.
yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, they're dragons. Yeah, it's just And then I remember like looking at this, like seeing like black dragons in the codex, and be like, not those, but like these guys.
They're like cooler. They're like that, but they're like that, but they fuck. Yeah, like.
But they don't have spikes coming out.
They don't have spikes coming out. They're cool, right?
Yeah.
They're cool dragon people.
They really like melta-guns. Yeah.
It's so. For everybody listening to this that falls into the category of someone who would make a Space Marine chapter like that, I'm going to tell you it will be okay. I did it. Colin did it. It will be okay. You will grow.
Edgelord days will pass.
That's right. Yeah, everyone needs to be a little dirtbag edgelord at some point in their life.
Yeah.
It's good for you, honestly. Some people don't grow out of it.
Yeah,
that's where most of the world's problems come from.
Yeah,
they go by Twitter, and the world descends into madness. Yeah. But for everybody else, you end up growing out of it and starting a podcast where you can laugh at it. Yeah. the Black Angel Death Dragons.
Yeah.
The Silver Drake. What is it, the Silver Drakes?
Oh yeah, it was the Space Drakes.
Space Drakes.
Space Drakes.
Space Drakes. That sounds like the basketball team that a certain Toronto rapper is going to start at some point.
Yeah, but eventually they start putting 0G boots on everybody.
Yeah, that's right. That's his name. Yeah, Space Drake. That's going to be his name when he finally goes to Mars with all the other rich people.
Yeah.
I'm Space Drake now.
Space Drake.
Space Drake. It's like my Deltron 3030, except now I'm Space Drake.
I think like the gall that I had was straight up just taking the Salamander's logo off of this transfer sheet and just putting it on there. And like, it's the Space Drake logo now.
But when Chris did that, he did his Ultramarines were the Omega Marines. He just turned the Ultramarines upside down. He's like, it's the Omegas. Yeah. Led by the Omega. That's right. The Alpha Omegas, led by Chapter Master Dosati.
Yeah.
Because he read a lot of Frank Herbert. So he had Dosati as his Chapter Master.
It's like, I think there's even a chapter in the Codex where it's like it's just the Ultramarine logo upside down, but then with a skull in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Just to make it a little
more edgy. How can you subvert all the decals that you get out of the box?
Yeah.
I mean, that is a time though.
Yeah.
Where I would say more people did that than didn't do that. And that's worth discussing, to be honest with you, because let's bookmark that then and go to the middle period.
Yeah.
So you're fledgling hobbyist. This is you, like baby Colin, like turning into a hobbyist, getting all his edgy shit out of the way.
Yeah.
There's a point in your life where like that like free time to money thing balances out.
Yes.
So you're not on mom and dad's money anymore. You can just buy whatever you want. You can be your own grown up.
Yeah.
So you spend it on toy soldiers like a responsible person.
Like an adult. Yeah.
Like an adult. So what does that look like then? What was your hobby at that point? If you can think back to like what the mix of that was.
I took there was like a hiatus moment. Like
everybody has that.
Yeah. It was
you lapse. Yeah.
Yeah. It was because Metrotown Games Workshop closed.
Yeah.
And at the time, there wasn't like an easy way for me to like get out to the eventual Highgate location that they opened up afterwards. Yeah. And so then I just kind of went on this hiatus where I just like I didn't get rid of them. I just held on to them, but then there was just no one to play with. And so then that just like went on.
Oh, because you were just a gaming night guy.
I was just a gaming night
guy. You were a gaming night guy, so you didn't have a home place to play.
Nope.
You didn't like go to buddies' houses to play.
Nope,
there was
it was
no club.
Entirely out of the game store.
It was entirely run out of the
Out of the game store.
That's so interesting. What year would this have been? So like 2010, 2015?
Yeah, I graduated in 2011, and so then that would have so it was like around then that Metro.
So I'm trying to think when Metro got close because I was around for that too.
Yeah.
So that tracks then.
Yeah.
So that would be really interesting that you were so dependent on the local game store.
Yeah.
And you didn't have a home like hobby basically.
Yeah. And like other like more like friendly locals like didn't really have a lot of Warhammer stuff at the time. Mm-hmm. So then they didn't have space to do it because they had space for like Magic the Gathering.
Pokemon, yeah. The card shops.
Yeah, and then they're all like super narrow tables and like, well, you can't play it's not a 6x4, you can't play Warhammer here and like so.
Wow.
There was such availability of people and the same people would show up every Saturday and so I had a quasi group, but it was just like the same like 6 people who showed up every Saturday to play Warhammer.
Did you guys? Here's a good question.
Yeah.
Did you guys go like for food afterwards, or go for beers, or like hang out?
Like I was.
Well, not when you're 15. I mean, as you're like going to school and stuff like that.
No, we would just hang out in the Metrotown food court.
Yes.
Yeah, we would just go.
Yeah, same. There you go. Yeah, go get food at the food court.
Yes.
So funny. That's so funny because that happened every game store I ever managed.
Yeah.
there was always a game night crew, and
Yeah.
like they'd always like when I was managing it, they'd invite me out. I'd usually like go like once, twice a month, just to, like hang out and talk to everybody and keep everybody kind of like from fighting if they had a bad game or whatever. But I love that can come out of a good game store experience. Where you go hang out in the food court, you'd have these very like specific friendships that were on a very specific timeline. It's not like you guys hang out outside of that.
Never.
But you had these like specific relationships.
I never saw any of those people after outside of Metrotown.
I love that.
When it closed, I never spoke. I don't think.
Yeah, it's your version of hockey buddies.
Yeah, exactly.
You only talk like in the locker room playing hockey, and you never see them outside.
They see each other for beer league and nothing else.
That's it. For beer league and that's it. That's a very Canadian reference, but hockey buddies are also a thing.
Yeah.
I'll ask Chris about hockey buddies when he's here next, because hockey buddies would legitimately be a thing that he would be into as well.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. That's so funny.
Yeah. And so then I was in a creative writing class when I was in college.
Sure.
And like I made friends with a dude in the class, and then I was just mentioning that I had Warhammer minis, and he had said that he wanted to like play that forever. And so that's my buddy Nico, and him and I just like have been playing Warhammer together ever since. And from that grew into like now we have a dedicated friend group.
Yeah.
We have like our own kind of like club that like whenever we sign up for tournaments and go, like it's the Brotherhood of Pals that we call ourselves.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah,
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's just this game.
Now here's a question.
Yeah.
Do you, because you're a guy with tattoos.
Yeah.
I am weirdly not a guy with tattoos. I don't have any tattoos. People are actually very surprised about that with me.
Yeah.
Do you have any Warhammer tattoos?
Not yet. No.
Okay, because I see your alien tattoo.
Yeah,
I love that. That's amazing.
This is the first pop culture reference tattoo I got.
That's amazing. Okay, so the reason I mention that is because the only time I ever had like a dog whistly wargaming moment was we used to have these T-shirts that the Canadian business made that were just the Space Marine stat line. So it's not there's no logos, doesn't say Games Workshop on it. It just says M4, WS4, BS4, S4, T4, W4, I4, LD8. And that's just fucking gibberish. Like that is to anybody else, that's total nonsense.
Yeah.
I would wear it like on the subway in Toronto, and every now and again I'd have like a cop or like a dude in a business suit just be like, that's a fantastic T-shirt. And we would like bro fist and just be like, it was like a secret language. Like this weird little dog whistle of like, no one else understood what it was. It was just complete nonsense. I looked like a sociopath. But every now and again, someone would get it, and it would like have that. I was just curious if that's maybe how that conversation started with your buddy, who's like, I always wanted to play Warhammer.
I had nothing. Like I didn't get my first tattoo until I was around 25.
Nice.
Yeah. No, it was if the T-shirt thing. The funny thing is like I think like D&D's like makes so much merch that it's all just that. Like
I mean now.
Yeah, now.
They didn't like you.
They didn't before.
You want to try and find a piece of D&D merch when I was like a teenager? They are very few and far between.
Yeah, for sure.
They're mostly con T-shirts.
Yeah.
Right. It would be like I rolled dice at Dragon Con.
Yeah, it's the big like
1993.
classic dragon art.
And the big red dragon art.
Yeah,
Something like that. It's very rare to find actual merch. Yeah. So sorry, go on.
It's okay. Yeah. But yeah, so him and I started playing, and then like we just went through stuff. We have that gaming club, and it's awesome. And I think then like from there it was like, expanding into all the games that you saw that I like sent in the list. It started out mostly with just kind of like if there was something that like Nico or myself could convince the other that like, hey, we should try this.
You're the motivator.
Yeah, it's like we were
motivator.
enabling each other.
Yeah.
So
I was the motivator in my gaming group. I was the one who would buy 2 armies of something and be like, we're trying this on Monday night. And like paint 2 armies, and then like 6 months later everyone's got an army or something like that. And so that happened with a bunch of games.
Yeah, Nico and I would do that to each other. And so we would both do that. And so like Nico was the one who pushed to try Age of Sigmar when that first came out.
Cool.
And then I pushed to try Necromunda and then like Titanicus and all that stuff. And like it was all the specialist games. And most of it was like playing around in Games Workshop and then playing around more in like the other gaming companies or indie games kind of is something that's more in like the past like 3 years that I've like gotten more into that kind of side.
You kind of started to branch out, like since the pandemic, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, you started to like branch into other things. That's funny. Do you think maybe you spent more time online during the pandemic, and that's how it like came to your attention? Social media, maybe.
That's definitely part of it. I think like because like I got like I pretty much almost entirely dipped out of 40K and started playing way more Age of Sigmar. And so Age of Sigmar, like I play it like competitively and like I go to events and tournaments.
Cool.
That's mostly of what my gaming club plays. But then like over time, it just like you play so much of it. And then because of the pandemic, you're playing it less competitively. And so I'm not thinking about it as much. And so I'm just like, let's try things out. Let's get weird with it. Let's try different stuff. And
Yeah.
and just started like playing all these different games and experimenting with them, and it's like been a lot of fun. There's a lot of cool stuff out there.
How much did playing at home change what you wanted out of your hobby? So like, actually, you know what? Let's bookmark this.
Okay,
then.
yeah.
One more question before we move on.
Okay, yeah.
This is like where your hobby is now, and we're kind
Sure.
of leading into it.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about that time,
Yeah.
you're working in the gaming industry too. You're like doing like game dev stuff.
Yeah.
Digitally.
Yeah.
Not, and we won't name drop anything because
Sure.
obviously, unless you want to, you can talk about whatever you want to talk
I
about.
used to work in electronic arts. On FIFA.
Cool. On kickball, on sports ball the game.
Yeah, kickball,
Kicksport the game.
kick sports ball the game. But it was
Only like one of the biggest franchises in EA.
It is the biggest franchise. It's actually
Really, it's better than Madden. Is Madden at EA?
Madden's at EA. We have like a twisted perspective here because we live in North America.
Sure.
We're like, because like Madden is huge in North America. Like it's played, like everyone in the States plays it. A good amount of people up in here in Canada play it.
Yeah.
Obviously NHL is more popular here. But then like the thing that like a lot of
The entire rest of the world.
the entire rest of the world plays soccer, plays football.
yeah.
And so I think it's like something ridiculous. Like I think like an average of like 45 million copies sell in Europe alone every year.
You would
It's
have to
crazy.
translate that game into so many languages.
It's so many. Yeah.
Like, I can't even just imagine the language department for FIFA would have to be like 10 times the size of everywhere
If
else.
I remember correctly, it's like 25.
25
25 different languages.
For the record, there's only like 213 sovereign countries. So that means that like 12% of everyone on Earth.
Yeah.
And probably like there's only like how many like spoken languages even amongst those countries.
Exactly.
So basically
Yeah.
most of the major languages on Earth basically.
Yeah, got translated in like FIFA.
Wild.
Or I should say the artist formerly known as FIFA. They're now
That's true, yeah.
EAFC.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, no, we Matrix bullet dodged our way out of like
Yeah.
when FIFA like reputation started to pile.
Yeah, you're already out of there.
We're already
You're
out.
like-
We're like,
you're
all right,
like-
see ya. Yeah.
I can smell the smoke. We're gonna get out of this barn first.
Yeah.
Just ran for it.
Yeah.
Not that EA is particularly well liked right now anyway for all the other things. But
Yeah, they treated it like if you're a regular full-time employee, like you're just like there for the long haul, you get treated really nicely.
Sure.
Contract people, not so much.
that's every industry though.
That's every industry.
Let's be honest. I can't think of a game company on Earth right now, a major one,
Yeah.
that is in anyone's good books.
Yeah.
Right? Like Wizards, Hasbro,
Yeah.
EA,
Yeah.
Blizzard.
Games Workshop.
'Cause Blizzard's EA too. Yeah, Games Workshop. Like nobody's like a darling right
No.
now, I don't think, in the
No.
industry anywhere.
Yeah.
Everybody's got some kind of complaints.
There's games and franchises that are darlings, but not the companies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because companies are not people.
Yeah.
They are giant institutions that are not people. Just
Yeah.
to remind everybody.
They are not the art themselves.
They're not the
produce
art
it.
themselves. They just produce it. They're the factory in which the art is made.
Yes.
So that's really cool. So that's happening at the same time, and you're developing this gaming thing inside that space.
Yeah.
That's like your hobby.
Yeah.
How did that influence the digital game dev stuff? Because I have a good friend who works as a game dev.
Yeah.
And his thing to me has always been since the 90s. He's like, they're more related than you think.
So related.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the funny thing is working in digital games, especially like an esport title like I was working on, it had more influence on my tabletop hobby than I think my tabletop hobby had on the game.
Yeah.
Because I just spent all day on a computer.
Sure.
And like when I got home, I didn't want to continue spending time on the computer. I unfortunately continued spending time at a desk chair because I was painting.
You're painting.
But
well, then you get out of the house and go do something.
Yeah, it's like anything else but being on a computer. And so like I would put something on the TV to like have a movie on in the background, and then like I would paint at the kitchen table, or I'd paint at the desk.
Oh my god, you're just like me. I have to have something in the background to paint. I can't
Yeah.
concentrate if something else isn't going on.
Painting in silence is torturous.
I would rather die. I'd rather kill
Exactly.
myself.
It's the
I need
worst.
someone else in the room with me entertaining me, or I need something in the background. It's all my intrusive thoughts. They just get into control at once.
I was painting in the hotel room over the past couple of days.
Yeah.
And like there was like my partner was setting up something on their laptop to watch.
Sure.
And that like 5 minutes of them getting up something to watch, and I was just
killing
like,
you?
I'm painting.
You're just like dying inside.
Can I put on Spotify while you set up? Like it's just
You're just humming and like tapping yourself.
yeah, exactly.
Can't do this. Hurry up!
Please put on anything.
Pick a show! That's right, yeah. I feel that in my soul. I absolutely feel that in my soul. But it's funny because I think that's a natural sort of like where the popularity of this stuff's come from the last little while.
Yeah.
Is people are missing that like get out and do something part of having a hobby, and so like D&D, like the physicality of like being around people,
it keeps you social. Like you can't, like if you play any of those, like a lot of these games, especially on like PC, it's like you put the headphones on and you get in a Discord channel with somebody and you're chatting with people, and you're playing the game, but then like it's not like across the table engaging with somebody, and like and it's also something that I just personally socially have a easier time doing. Like if I'm like gonna talk to somebody, I have a way easier time talking to them and getting to know them, rolling dice and moving miniatures around than I do with a beer in hand, which is like so strange, because then that's most people's experience, is they want to just like grab a drink and chat. But on like
I can go the other way. Like I can game with somebody first and then go get lunch.
Yeah, exactly.
It'd be totally normal. But if it starts off with the first thing, I'm like,
game, you're like,
I'm like, am I chewing too loud? Should I order something that makes it look like I take care of myself?
Yeah,
what should I do right now? Will I offend them if I eat meat? Like,
are they going to judge me if I just down an entire medium pizza?
if I eat an entire order of breadsticks by myself, is that going to look weird?
Yeah,
what are they going to think about that?
Yeah.
That's right. He's sweating Parmesan right now. What is wrong with that, man?
Yeah, exactly.
That's so
and
funny.
so that was like something that was nice, was just kind of like the social bubble.
Yeah, and like you find your people.
Yeah, it was like that was my friend, that was my buddy Nico that I mentioned earlier.
Sure.
Like he him and I would just like meet up regularly and just like play in the apartment, or then as things like as the contagiousness of things started like go down a little bit, as people started getting vaccines, then that was like I could rent out the common room in the apartment building, and then like I would have like
the
get
more
gaming
space.
club. Yeah,
the club would come in. Cool.
Yeah. And then that would just it would be a host out of like the common room.
How did playing not in a gaming store, because you talked about Metrotown closing, how that changed things. How did that change your appetite for how big a game you played? Because I noticed the list of games you sent me, like fully 2/3 of them aren't mass combat games. They're like kitchen table games.
Yes.
And how is your, and like, so now this is the where you are today part. We'll do the actual thing. We'll like bookend it all.
Yeah.
So we're into that where you are today. How do you think that's changed, like what you look for now and what you play and what you're excited about?
I think the biggest thing that came out of like no longer playing at a gaming store was that there was no longer any restrictions on what models you used.
Sure. Yeah.
And so that was like, like I got a filament printer to start printing my own terrain, because like playing with just like an empty Coke box, not the same as an actual hollowed out building.
You're not immersed. You're not drawn into that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I started printing terrain. My buddy, he got a resin printer, and so he started printing miniatures. And so then you could start playing more of like proxies or miniature agnostic type things. And then in addition, just kind of like, like the common room had like 2 tables that could fit a 6x4 mat, but then otherwise it just kind of had those like gray plastic tables you see at bingo halls.
Yeah, just folding tables.
Yeah, and then that fits a kill team board, doesn't fit the full mat, but then the 8 people of us who are all hanging out, then all 8 of us can game at the same time, without just kind of like four of us gaming, and then the other 4 just kind of sitting around like thumbs up our ass.
That's true. It's funny because you started, 3rd edition 40K is before gaming mats.
Yeah.
Gaming mats didn't exist.
Yeah.
I have a theory about gaming mats.
Okay.
What is your take on gaming mats though? Like how do you feel like they've changed anything in your hobby?
It satisfies, like, funny enough, like it definitely brings immersion. Sure. Like it's no longer just kind of like that like infamous green grass mat that GW used to sell. It has like I have
several in the back.
Yeah, it's like now it's like a ruined city or like this little kind of field that has like rocks and things, and so that helps with immersion. The other side of it is honestly something that I think is just kind of like it just feels nice.
Sure.
Like the dice bouncing off of it sound good. The models like have a good like they sit well on the mat, and so it's just like and it's neoprene, and so like people are used to mouse pads. And so there's just like kind of a positive thing that I think just helps with like immersion, and then like just kind of the sensorily it like really helps.
Did you ever have like a permanently set up gaming space in your house or your friend's house?
No.
No?
No, it was
was that ever something you thought about or wanted?
The closest I did was I worked with my dad to build a wooden 6x4 table, and then that's now my partner and I's kitchen table.
That's
and
amazing.
So if I'm gonna game in the apartment, then it's like get everything out of here, and then throw down. Yeah.
So there you go. So
Yeah.
so you have this ability to like, if you want a game at home now, you can.
Yeah.
But you don't have to have this like model railroad in grandpa's basement like
Yeah.
permanently installed thing.
Yeah.
Because it's funny because I don't think people think about it very often. But to me, I think that is what the impact that those things have had on the industry is.
Yeah.
Is they took it out of being like so dependent on having a game store to you can play at home. I
Yeah.
mean, the kitchen table stuff does too, but that's always kind of existed.
Yeah.
It's just more how accessible was it to you, and then you were kind of freed up by this development to have like a nice looking. I do want to play this game on it.
Yeah.
Like you said, like that nice like finished sort of experience, but so convenient.
Yeah.
Right, it goes under the bed, it goes in the closet,
Yeah.
it goes wherever because it just rolls up and disappears.
You can have a beer and pretzels game and not have to worry about driving drunk home afterwards.
That's right. Yeah, because you're already home.
Because
That's
you're
right.
already
Yeah,
home.
you just walk. Yeah, you kick your buddy in the Uber and be like, "Go home. I don't want your hair anymore.
exactly.
I'm done with this." Yeah. There's money for the Uber on the nightstand.
And then like it also comes with like the added benefit of just kind of like that guy you don't know coming up to your table and be like, "Hey, how much longer are you guys going to be?" And it's like, I don't know, half hour. I don't know.
I just feel like there's a change, like a flux almost happening because of that stuff that is worth acknowledging.
Yeah.
So what's your hobby now? You said you were competitively into AOS.
Yeah.
That kind of mass combat. So has that come back since the pandemic?
It's come back like for more of the social side of things.
Sure.
Yeah, like I mean, frankly, I just like I don't think I ever
Buds
got,
Club.
Yeah, I never got higher than like halfway.
Sure,
Like
yeah.
I think like the highest I ever placed was like 10th.
Sure.
And so it's just kind of like,
But
well,
it's the thinking about it.
It's the thinking about it.
It's you play fantasy football not because your team's going to win,
Yeah.
but because you get together and play fantasy football.
Because you get to think
right?
about football.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's nice to go to those events and like see all these people again and just kind of like, oh hey, like how's it going, man?
Yeah,
and, like, all that stuff.
Reconnect.
And, yeah. But then like I like we used to have like every weekend was like practice matches leading up to the event, and like now I've played like
It's
3.
so funny. It's very funny
Yeah.
how that mindset, because I
Yeah.
talked about this when I talked about how the effect that changing rules all the time has on
Yeah.
casual gamers, because every game
Yeah.
for some people. So for me, I have to stay current with that stuff, and it frustrates me because every time I play a pickup game is when someone like you comes to the studio and I'm playing a person I've never met before.
Yeah.
And I want to be at whatever their expectation is.
Yeah.
And the unspoken expectation of every miniature game is whatever the most. It's like a patch for an OS. It's the
I
most
know.
version whatever 10.3.2, right? So if we're on version 1.1 now, 40k,
Yeah.
you and I would be playing version 1.1 of 40k, and
Yeah.
that'd be the expectation.
Totally.
And then for people who are like in that competitive mindset, every game is a practice game for this like Olympics of gaming that
I
they
know.
think they're going to go to someday.
It was like to a point it was like one event that I went to was like at a point where I just like had this like encyclopedic knowledge of everything AOS to a point where like I knew other people's army rules. Like they would like, walk up. And
Oh,
be
you
like,
were in it. I've been there.
Yeah.
I like honestly, probably about 2000 and like end of 6th edition Warhammer Fantasy Battle.
Yeah.
I was that guy for 6th
Yeah.
edition Warhammer Fantasy Battle. I was the guy they'd call over to be like, how does this
Judge.
work? And I judge like the non-official judge. Be like, just
Yeah.
ask Ash. He'll know what it is.
And that's what I had too. Like people, like other people in my gaming club would just be like, people would be like, "What's this rules interaction?" Like, "Oh, call Colin over," and like he'll know.
I'll be like, it was in this General's Compendium. It had this.
Yeah.
It was in this
Yeah.
White Dwarf. Like, I knew the issue number of the White Dwarf, the rule
Yeah.
clarification was in, or like the errata was in, or some
Exactly.
shit like that.
Yeah.
And thinking back to that version of myself, I was so concerned with being like, it was like a be perfect driver almost.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, or a be right
get
driver.
that.
Like,
Yeah.
like, no, I need to be the one that is the best at this.
Yeah, I need to know everything.
It's
that's
not even that
gonna
I have to win my
Yeah.
games. It's that I have to be like,
Yeah, like I'm not playing meta lists, but I need to know everything possible.
That's right.
Yeah.
And like I think there from the magic terminology, I was like a Johnny.
Right.
If you know the Timmy, Johnny, and
I
Spike.
think so, yeah.
So Johnny's the one that wants to win unconventionally.
Right.
By knowing all of the rules better
Yes.
than anybody else.
Yeah.
I was more of a Johnny than a Timmy or a Spike.
Yeah.
Timmy's like the big power move guy.
Yeah. It plays
Spike
the big
is,
green decks.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
where it's like it's all big wins. Spike is like the whatever the meta list is, and
Yeah.
Johnny's the like thinking list.
Yeah.
I was a Johnny for sure at that point, and I was doing Johnny rules. I
Yeah.
loved, and I see where keeping up the hobby becomes keeping up with that.
Yeah.
Like your hobby isn't
It's
even
just-
necessarily
it's
playing the
tiring.
game anymore. It's the treadmill of being the one that's on top of it, that
Everything.
scours for that knowledge.
Yeah.
You're almost like a journalist.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to know all
Yeah.
the most recent stuff.
And like I'm not a coffee drinker, and so like those kind of like 15 minutes.
As you can see here, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like your caffeine
I got
cold.
my-
I like mine
yeah, I
hot,
got my Arizona.
I was like, I got my,
got my Arizona.
I got my half liter of Arizona. I'll be fine.
Yeah, but like at work, like it would be like like people take 15 minutes to go get their next coffee.
Yeah, yep.
I would pull up Warhammer Community, read whatever was the latest
Wow.
like rules thing. I would make a list. I would just like fake make a list, and then I would look up like Goonhammer articles to like, okay, what would the rules of this list be? And then I would just do that, and that was how I like gave myself a brain break from game design. Was I
Yeah.
would look at game design.
Yeah. You'd force it into a different shape.
Yeah,
kind of.
exactly.
It's almost like doing stretches. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you're doing stretches on game design at that point. That's really interesting because I do think that's
Yeah.
its own hobby.
Yeah, it is. Definitely.
Like I don't think that's just a coincidence that you
Yeah.
and I both at some point did that during our hobby journey.
Yeah.
And so are you still like, is that still does
it's
that
like-
interest you still? Is that something you stay on top of?
It's something that like I've like pulled back from, mainly because it was just, I think like I hit a point where then like some of the rules updates got away from me, and then I was just like, and so I do that for the factions I play.
Right.
Like I do like really deep dives into like if I play Iron Jaws, and so now that new supplement has come
Sure,
out.
yeah.
And so now I'm just like, okay, what's all the things you could do with that? But then like I don't play Lumineth. I don't play like Idoneth or like a like the new Death one, the Soulblight Gravelords.
Yeah.
There's so much that you can do with Soulblight Gravelords, and like back in the day, I would have done a deep dive on all 4 subfactions.
Not because you played them.
Not because I played them, because I want to know what they do.
You have to deconstruct
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
It's like the deconstruction is like the hobby almost.
Yeah,
How do I
exactly.
deconstruct? Like, what are the dead ends? What are the
Yeah.
places you can go deep? What are the places you can go wide?
Yeah.
Like, what is all this stuff?
all that.
Yeah,
But now it's just kind of like it's not worth it, and I'll just trust my opponent to like know what they're doing. Right?
Wow, you'll trust your opponent. Ooh.
If there's something that I'm just kind of like, that sounds crazy, it's like, can we look into
Can you
that?
break that down
Yeah.
for me? Yeah.
Yeah.
You do like the coaching method where you make them explain it to you, where you're like,
Yeah.
okay, so
All right,
I'm going to
okay.
ask a lot of questions right now. Walk me through this.
Yeah.
Walk me through where that was.
Yeah, exactly.
How this interaction works.
Yeah.
But so what's replaced it? Like, what is your passion now?
It's
Because like I said, there's a list of like
yeah.
Blood Bowl,
Yep.
Necromunda. Those are
And-
not balanced games.
No, it's not. And
Those,
and
they're not
that's
designed to be.
and that's what's become like the kind of breakdown passion. It's
Okay.
just kind of like, because as I'm moving out of like kind of the more competitive side of Age of Sigmar, and getting more into like kind of like the specialist games, I guess, like is as they're called. Looking into like the fact that Blood Bowl is purposely made to be unbalanced, and then like thinking about the philosophy around that design and like what makes this team like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, or then
And that they even openly
community
talk
made-
about that.
Yeah.
That's like a thing that
They,
everyone
they're
acknowledges.
like, yep, we did this on purpose. And like I just think that's fascinating, and like I really love playing Necromunda because it's like this weird in between that I love, where it's like you're playing a miniature skirmish game, and it has all the technical rules that go into like putting a flamethrower template down and
Yep.
everything. But then it has like you almost have to approach it like playing D&D. I don't think I've ever read past the last D&D class in the player handbook. Like I've never read the rest of that book because it's just kind of like, oh, it's like what sounds good, you know? What sounds cool?
You literally only need the DM screen to play
Exactly.
the game.
Yeah.
The DM screen has everything you could possibly
Yeah,
want.
all you need.
It's just random target
Yeah.
numbers for things someone might
Yeah,
do.
exactly.
I when I realized that, I was like, oh, I love this.
Yeah,
I don't want to.
it's so freeform.
I just want this
Yeah.
like big window of like he says he's swimming.
Yeah.
Roll a die.
Roll a die.
Roll a die and
Yeah.
add this number.
Boy, howdy, it sure was hard to swim there. Yeah.
Right. Boy, howdy, I shouldn't have gone swimming in my chainmail. Seems like that was a bad idea.
Oh, man.
Daddy, you're gonna have to pull me out with some rope because I am stuck in the mud.
Get the tree.
That's right. Yeah. Give me a stick, son. Do I need the grabbing stick again, son?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yes, please.
Yes, you do, Daddy.
And so like Necromunda's like filled that hole where it's just kind of like you do get to have like these like story moments, and it's just kind of like, well, that's weird and that's contradictory, but like what would be the coolest thing to happen here? It doesn't
Yeah.
need to like be broken down in that whole sense. And so it's just like it's going in for that kind of side, and that's why I really loved Titanicus, because it was the same kind of thing where it's like very like has like a lot of technical rules, but then like is like all the technical rules exist to tell a narrative.
To generate cinema.
Yeah, exactly.
To generate
make a
what's
cinematic
happened.
moment.
To generate a cinematic moment, exactly.
Yeah.
They're about tracking the life cycle
Yeah.
of a huge metal monster,
Yeah.
which is at some point going to turn into the sun,
a sun.
a
Yeah.
sun exploding.
Yeah.
If we do everything right, that's going to happen at some point.
The buildings may not be around. Here
That's right,
afterwards.
exactly. It's funny how much that matters to me now.
Yeah.
And I think that's I don't know why certain people that becomes what's important to them and certain people don't. I do think part of it is I think you stay longer obsessed with the gambling side of it, which is what I'll call the competitive play. Because competitive play is gambling. It's like I got a system.
Yep.
I got a system. This horse.
That's
I got.
the whole thing.
I got,
it's like you gotta. The chances are the most likely for you.
I think the winning competitive side of it is the same gene that makes for like professional gamblers. Makes people that will drive that forever. They love to drive that car. Mm-hmm. Whereas I think the longer you play inside baseball, so if you're inside the industry, or you do something industry related like art or design or even sales and business, the more inside baseball you do, the more you kind of you just see your cipher in the matrix. You're like, I can just see blonde brunette. Like you see the ones and zeros instead of seeing the people. And you just want to get plugged back in. You're like, just let me see.
I just want to
just let me see the story again. Just plug me back in.
It's like the wildest thing I think about like working at a company making an esports game while watching the esportsification of 40K and AOS.
Go on. Preach. Tell me. I've been the only person like I get accused of being an old man, and I am an old man that yells at clouds. But please just continue talking about exactly what you're talking about. Right now. I'm just gonna sit here and absorb it all.
So like, because like esports is entirely, it's like making things an event. You know, like there's constant patch updates. Things are always coming out because like someone figures out some meta in Call of Duty or Fortnite or Apex and like or in FIFA. And like wants to like change something, or they do some kind of like crazy dodge move and it goes through, and they have to patch it because you can. It's a video game, right? And there's no rules to keep up with. It's just how the game controls now.
Sure.
And like all the muscle memory that goes into that is something that you just
you adapt to basically. Yeah.
And so, in order to like keep engagement and like keep people driven, like I'm seeing Games Workshop employ esports gaming models to 40K and Age of Sigmar. And it's been fascinating to watch, and like just kind of like they're calling them seasons. Like it's just like it's
why
so
why do you think that terminology crept in? Do you think that's just like do you think it literally crept in from like the consulting and from people working
exactly
for them? Yeah?
Because like that's like become the model for these games is like you play it's Apex Season 7. It's Apex Season.
That's funny because and they imported that from sports games.
Yeah.
Right. So sports games automatically had seasons because they were played seasonally in certain weather.
Yeah.
So like from that, that's now been pulled into shooting games, fighting games, and now
Mortal Kombat's got it. Yeah, like
Fortnite has seasons. Yeah.
And now Warhammer has seasons, and it's like there's like the seasonal content and things, and they even kind of had that a little bit early on with Age of Sigmar because they do all their experimentation in Age of Sigmar before it goes to 40K.
Sure.
And they had like the endless spell packs that came out. They introduced that like Kron Spine, and it's like that's seasonal content, and it's things that they like
Underworlds felt like it was the first thing that had seasons to me.
Definitely. Yeah.
Like they were experimenting with it almost as if like, can we make a game that's episodic? Yeah. Can we make a game that has like revolving content? How would that look?
Yeah.
And now it's bled into everything.
Yeah. And it's experiment because Underworlds was so initially successful. Yeah. It's like it's definitely gone down a bit, I think, since the pandemic. Because like
because it was an in-person game.
It was an in-person.
It was a video game you had to play in person.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And so it went down since the pandemic, but like when it was pre-pandemic, like so many people were playing it, and there's like this need to like keep up with like all the latest card releases, and people were buying boxes not because they were necessarily into the minis, which were all beautiful, but because they had like a card that would work really well in their meta list, and so then seeing that play out in how the rules updates are done for 40K with like this kind of like obsession with like keeping things like kind of elastic banding one way or the other, because it's like they want to change up the meta because it keeps things engaging and it keeps things like people coming back, because it is not the same kind of like Twitch gameplay that you get from a lot of these video games that are esports titles.
Sure.
But the Twitch comes in more in terms of like, okay, well, the meta list is this. Okay, well, the meta list is that, and the meta list is this, and the meta list is that. And and that's part of like what makes keeping up with all those rules like eventually kind of exhausting, is because it's not as automatic, because it's analog rather than digital.
Mm-hmm.
And so then it's funny, like in my gaming group, because a lot of them were like seeing this and kind of talking about that like exhaustion that has to come from like keeping up with all these different rules updates and things like that. And then me just kind of looking at it and like recognizing what it is and just being like, oh yeah, they're turning it into an esport.
So what does that do in the esports industry? So what is creating those patches do commercially and shipping wise inside that industry? Like, what's the point? Is it to pacify the consumer? Is it to make more money? Like, I know Fortnite, it's obvious.
Yeah.
But Battle Pass,
always
you sell. Okay.
Everything is always it's always money driven.
Yeah. Sorry, I meant like temporarily. Yes, I do realize that everything is to make more money.
Yeah, but in terms of like how they the target when they like go to make them more money, they really do drive to like make it like the thing people think about. And where like it's just like there's Twitch streams and there's like the content, and so like whether or not you're someone who's like the person who's like a competitor in the space.
Yeah.
And then you have to keep up with it constantly, because now you have to like learn this new muscle memory for this new thing, or like they introduce a new character, and so now you have to like know what that person does, and then how, not only what does that character do, but how can the other characters compete against that thing.
I feel like Raid Shadow Legends does that.
Yeah.
They do a new season, and then they put a new they do this new wave of ad content for this new character.
Yeah.
And this number of bonus packs you get if you buy the seasonal pass or whatever. Like I can see that direct line for me is the seasonal pass.
Yeah.
And I can see the line in Tabletop where the seasonal pass, like, and this isn't just Games Workshop, I should say, either, because there's a lot of companies doing this.
Yeah.
So, like, the ITS packs for Corvus Belli are a seasonal pass, right?
Yeah.
They are seasonally bought content, as are their codes for their tournaments.
Yeah.
The General's Handbook and the Chapter Approved are seasonal passes for Games Workshop that they make a touch of money off of. And then there's usually bespoke content that goes along with it. Obviously, for Underworlds, it's just a new starter set. Yeah. Like, the whole thing just resets, right?
Yeah.
They do a new rulebook.
And now they have those Rivals decks and things.
Yeah. I think that's inside outside. We'll talk about that in a whole other thing. I think the Rivals decks are the smartest thing they've ever done. Because they make every person not have a collection that's ever out of date.
Yeah.
And
it's
also,
way more accessible.
And also, there's a reason to buy that box for everybody now. Because all those Rivals decks are basically, the universal ones, are basically something that you can use no matter who you are. Yeah.
That, like, what was that, like, Blood and Bone or something that was in that first one that they put out?
Good.
Yeah, it was
such a good
really
Rivals
good deck.
Such a good Rivals deck.
But yeah, it was like, but it's like they changed the missions, they changed how they're played, and so, like, people have to, like, engage with all this stuff again and relearn it. And so it keeps the intent of, like, how it makes money is they just maintain, like, the thought cycle where it's like once the puzzle is just about to be solved, they introduce a new puzzle.
So even like part of like the microtransaction ecosystem might become more attractive because we've updated it this way where things that weren't selling are now selling, and you don't have them because no one's bought them.
Yeah.
So that would be like a way in esports that you would do that. You would change the, like, this gun or this character or whatever was never being purchased, so we're just going to tweak the season slightly so that that's a thing that you might want to have now.
And the funny mentality with it is that, like, my gaming group, like, we go, like, because of the pandemic, there was like a springtime like major event and a fall time major event.
Sure.
The springtime event has been shut down for a while. I think they're trying to get it going again this coming year. But then the fall time one, like that, when they tried to do like 2 seasons in a year for Age of Sigmar, my gaming group just didn't even buy the first one because it'll be already out of date by the time we go to the fall event.
Chris said that actually when I did his Inside Tabletop. He was like, it was the first time someone released, or they released a General's Handbook that I didn't. It got me less excited to play the game. Because I knew I wasn't ever going to use it. It was never going to have any meaning to me. And so I just skipped it.
Exactly.
And it's funny because those books very specifically, I think the General's Handbooks almost more than anything were about that like reclassification of like what's important now.
Yeah.
Monsters are important this
Yeah.
season. Now battle line infantry is important this season. Now
No,
minor
foot
5-wound heroes,
Yeah,
foot
yeah.
heroes are important this season. And it's like, well, what wasn't selling right now?
Yeah,
I guess
exactly.
it was that.
Let's throw that in
It's
there.
going to be that.
Yeah,
We'll throw that in
exactly.
there. That'll be a thing. And it became kind of transparent where the joke was like, who gets the glow up this time around?
Whoa. Yeah.
What's going to be the thing everybody wants to buy?
My group wants cavalry so bad.
I mean, why? Yeah,
everyone
why not?
plays mounted stuff.
It's coming, baby.
Yeah,
it's coming.
Eventually, it
all
will.
he did was release cavalry in this last book. It was trolls and cavalry.
Yeah, pretty
Everybody
much.
got cavalry.
Everyone has cavalry.
Yeah,
now.
cavalry, or like you have like a tankette army. The Carriage on Overlord list made no sense.
Yeah,
I was like, it's got 5 units in it. How do you make an army out of just like little trucks, gun guys, and heroes that don't have names? Like, what
I guess
is
you
this?
play custodes then, eh?
I guess it is. It's basically the Custodian's army for AOS, yes, except less good.
Yeah.
By a factor of a bajillion. It's really funny.
Yeah.
So you noticed this. How do you think it affected your like partition basically of like time and money on mainstream games versus all of these other sort of like little passion games that you have?
Well, like the first thing was that, funny enough, like I think because I saw the design direction, it made me more forgiving of Games Workshop.
Okay.
Like, because like it was just kind of like a thing of just kind of like I work for a company that everyone hates too.
Yeah.
Like, and so I just kind of saw
Was
everyone
inside
hating-
baseball. That's
Yeah,
it,
I saw everyone hating at Games Workshop, and it's like, don't worry, guys, I get it. Like,
It's not the people, and it's never the
Yeah.
people. That's gonna be hard. I mean,
Yeah.
in any time when you care about something, I used to say this about working for any big company or bigger company.
Yeah.
Is the big things don't love you back.
yeah,
You can love what you do, but that big thing doesn't love you back.
does not.
And it never does. And the people that even consume the thing that you loved making
Yeah.
don't love you back either.
No.
And it's a really hard thing to realize
Yeah.
is you're making it for the sake of making it sometimes.
Yeah.
Not because you're going to get any kind of appreciation.
Oh, no.
In any way, shape,
Yeah.
or form.
when you get the appreciation, it's nice.
It is really nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I remember being stopped by a guy because I was wearing like a FIFA jacket.
Sure.
And he's like, "Hey, like, do you work on that game?" And I was like, "Yeah, no, I work on the development team." And he was like, "Oh yeah," it's like, I play that game with my kid, and it's really great. And I was like, that was a moment that probably kept me working for that company for another like 2 years.
Yeah, it like filled your cup enough that you were like able to shoulder the rest of it.
Yeah,
for a while.
exactly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I get those now and again, even today.
Yeah.
Where I'll have someone come see me or email me or something like that.
Yeah.
That's like, you probably don't remember me, but
Yeah.
like you ran a mega battle for me, or you ran a demo
Yeah.
game for me, or you taught me how to paint, or
Yeah.
like something like that. Where like it's just all of a sudden you're just like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
For every screaming person on the internet that thinks that
asshole.
I'm a complete piece of shit because I did something
Yeah.
for somebody, I've actually done something good too, and I should probably remember.
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good spot for us to leave off. Me talking about talking about our feelings, basically.
Yeah.
And this definitely turned into an inside tabletop.
Yeah,
so I
it
think that we've definitely transitioned now.
Cool.
We're gonna play a game. We're gonna
Yeah.
crack because you love Underworlds. We're
Yeah,
gonna crack
yeah.
open the Underworlds 2-player starter set.
Absolutely.
And I'm gonna do something I've never done before because this
Okay.
video is all about doing something we've never done before.
Yeah.
Is we're gonna do a review
Okay.
of that box together.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna play with it.
All right. Of the dysfunctional family and versus future model of the year.
Correct.
Yes.
It's going to be amazing. I hope you guys enjoyed this Inside Tabletop. I'll probably cut that part that I just said because I don't know when I'm going to put this out. It'll be at some point.
Yeah.
But I hope you guys enjoyed this Inside Tabletop. Colin Ross, thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
And thanks for being the guinea pig for another one of these in a new room. And I only dropped the mic once.
Only once.
And we only had one false start.
Yeah, there you go.
So this
Yeah.
was...
This is pretty solid.
This was like a 75 out of 100, I would say.
A solid B.
A solid B, yes. Chris's was a C. The audio is going to be way better for this one, I promise.
School's about progressing.
It's about learning from your mistakes
Yeah.
and not living with the power. I'm going to put some music on and we're going to crack some boxes. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Thanks for watching. And yeah, I don't know who the next Inside Tabletop is going to be. So email me at growminiaturegames@gmail.com. There will be stuff on the walls at some point, I promise. I have so much stuff that I want to put in here to like make the audio better. It's going to be more arts and crafts. You guys will see videos with that too. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye.